Welcome, everybody, to this episode of The Monthly Blend, a monthly video podcast brought to you by Next, powered by Shulman Rogers and the Connectpreneur community. I'm Tien, Wong, founder and host of the Connectpreneur community. We are a global community of over 30,000 investors, founders, and business leaders. And I'm also the CEO of Opus 8, which helps companies and fund managers raise money through our network of accredited private investors, angels, and family offices throughout the United States. Along with my co-host, Anthony Millin, who is the founder and chair of Next, powered by Shulman Rogers, we are thrilled to bring you this monthly video podcast, which covers trends, information, as well as fascinating interviews with game changers and newsmakers here in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore Metroplex. Anthony and I started this podcast a little over 3.5 years ago as a way to increase awareness of cool, innovative happenings in our region, and to break down silos, and also serve as a mechanism to do our part to help bring the region together and to help foster innovation and entrepreneurship here. Today, we're going to be talking about this year's DC Startup and Tech Week, which is in its 10th year. And DC Startup and Tech Week is the top startup event of the season here in the region. It's a full week of programming with dozens of speakers and events, and we're really thrilled to have three of the leaders of the organization with us. We have Rachel Koretsky, who's the CEO and founder of UPace, as well as the co-chair of DC Startup and Tech Week. We have Seema Alexander, CEO and founder of Disruptive AI, and also co-founder and co-chair of DC Startup and Tech Week. And last but not least, Darius Clair, who's the founder of Deals Venture Group. And Darius is the Director of Programs and Community of DC Startup and Tech Week. And before I turn things over to Anthony, I'd love for our three guests to self-introduce briefly. Let's start with you, Rachel.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for having us. It's been amazing to be on the podcast for the last 3 years. So hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Koretsky. I am the founder and CEO of UPace and one of the co-founders and co-chair of DC Startup and Tech Week, and a mom of 2 young boys and a young puppy as well.
I love it. I'm Seema Alexander. I play a couple hats in this region, co-chair of DC Startup and Tech Week, which is the largest entrepreneurial investor community conference that we're here to talk about today. Also the founder and CEO, as you mentioned, Tien, of Disruptive AI, where we make businesses intelligent. So really excited to talk about all of these things in the next few minutes.
Awesome. And what's going on, everybody? My name is Darius Clair. I am the Director of Programs and Community over at DC Startup and Tech Week. All of the work that I do is at the intersection of startups, investors, and community building, but also the founder of Deals Venture Group, which is a venture community based here in the DMV area. I'm really supporting all folks who are building in the venture space, from investors, startups, and ecosystem builders alike. And so excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Darius. Now I'd love to turn things over to my co-host, Anthony Millin. Anthony is a serial entrepreneur. He's a venture capitalist, as well as being one of the nation's top startup attorneys. Anthony is the founder and chair of Next, powered by Shulman Rogers. And Next is disrupting the way that legal services are being delivered to early stage companies. They have a unique fixed price structure. It allows for expert legal advice from top partners. And in the last 3.5 years, Next has been recognized by several publications, including by winning Legal Week's Startup Emerging Law Firm of the Year, as well as Legal Week's Best Law Firm for Enabling Startup Success, and also being a finalist for the American Lawyer's Most Innovative Law Firm Award. Anthony, congrats, and take it away, please.
That deserves applause here. And you forgot one, Tien. They were the title sponsor for many years for DC Startup and Tech Week, so very early supporters, and we're so appreciative of that.
Absolutely.
Well, Rachel and Seema and Darius, it's so great to have you all on our show today. 10 years is a major milestone in any venture's journey. And, this started with a vision and an idea for what could be. And here, 10 years later, you've really built something very unique and special and really critical in our region. For viewers who are new to DC Startup and Tech Week, I think it would be great just to share a little bit about the vision and mission, and with how the DC Startup and Tech Week plays this critical central role in our ecosystem and how it's really grown and evolved over the past decade. And maybe, Rachel, you can start with that.
Yes, I would love to. So we've grown tremendously over the past 10 years from having an idea and a vision of we want to gather founders and investors and the startup community together for a place where you're able to learn, to network, to grow, and figure out how do we scale. Here at the team at DC Startup and Tech Week, we firmly believe DC and the DMV region is the best place to start and scale a company. And through our work with DC Startup and Tech Week, we want to make sure that this region stays ahead of the game for founders and startups locally. So what DC Startup and Tech Week focuses on, we do year-long programming events, but our core is our week this October 20th to the 24th, just about 3 weeks away, where we bring together thousands, close to 8,000 founders, investors, people who work within startups, technologists, developers, you name it, within the startup community together across 5 days of content, over 150 sessions, 300 plus speakers, everything from 17 different tracks, from I have an idea, how do I get started, to I'm looking to close my Series A, I'm looking to figure out how I can have a merger or an acquisition. Our content and placement throughout the week will help support that. Our mission also is how we're able to really showcase the amazing founders and the amazing investors that we do have locally on our stage, but also nationally and internationally, of really showcasing all the amazing work that's happening here within the DC region. And our third core component about our week is around celebration. Being a founder and being in the startup ecosystem is hard. It's a roller coaster of ups and downs. And we want to make sure that our startups and founders that we're supporting is able to take this week to be able to celebrate throughout every single day. We have networking events and fun activations that are happening. And we want these founders to be able to take a step back and say, this is a week that's about community, about meeting other founders, about growing individually, taking care of your mental health, as well as figuring out how you can get your next stage of scale for your company, that this is the week for everyone that's able to get involved as a part of it.
Can I add one thing, Anthony, on that? And what we've been saying and what we've heard and what we've seen is this is where unicorns are born, right? And I think what is beautiful about DC Startup and Tech Week, it's the early stage ideas and the incubations, but every time Rachel, myself, Darius were at events, someone will walk up to us and say, DC Startup and Tech Week changed my life. Like, we had somebody close their $3 million seed round last year. We had someone, share that they found the best co-founder and now their operations is scaling in such ways. Like, you continue to use this opportunity in this community to make decisions to change lives. So that one connection matters. And that's why we do this year after year.
And I think on the connections, one of the things I've always found with our ecosystem that really is different from others around the country is the people, and just how people support and care and drive each other forward. And this event feels to me that it's really all about the people as well, and plays this crucial role as glue in our ecosystem in bringing all these people together, which is such a central component of what makes us unique.
I appreciate that, Anthony, because that's all about what we focus on is really that mentality where we ask our attendees to come with intention of what they can get out of the week, but also how they can help another attendee that's there, and really have that mentality of how can I help and how we can move forward together.
And 10 years, as I said at the beginning, is a very big deal. And I am sure you have some special events and speakers planned for this 10th anniversary DC Startup and Tech Week. Is there anything you can share with us ahead of time about some of the special events and speakers that people could look forward to attending?
Yeah, I mean, I'll share a few things. I think it's an exciting time, not just for the ecosystem, but I would say humanity as a whole, because technology is changing, right? We're in one of the biggest technological shifts with AI, quantum, all the things that are coming down with blockchain and other things. And this is not just a tech event, it's a startup event. So different ideas, but we do like bringing content to spark innovation. So one of the new concepts that we're going to be working on day one is a futurist series. So, things what is the future of innovation look like in different industries, from life sciences and healthcare to autonomous and defense, right? We have a lot of different angles and different perspectives that are going to come to our first day, which is going to be at Hopkins Bloomberg Center in DC. I mean, we have new content tracks this year. One of the things that we really try to do is, what are we very good at in this region, and ensuring that we have the right content so we can, again, spark ideas, bring the right founders and investors together. And so we have newer content tracks this year. One is hospitality, which we're very excited. Versus Equity is our partner bringing the top hospitality folks in the Washington, D.C. DMV region. It's going to be fantastic, from folks from Live Nation to Sweet Greens to you name it, are going to be at that content track. Autonomous and defense, obviously, with everything going on with AI. Launch T also being another big initiative for DC Startup and Tech Week. We wanted to make that also front and center. So we have a new track there. Under our climate and sustainability, we also have a special water section. So water startups, you didn't even think how important that is, but without water, we have nothing. And so we're trying to be, and in a major investor track this year. And Darius, you can even speak to that in a few minutes, but we're really trying to, again, convene the ecosystem in a way that speaks to what's going to spark innovation for them. The other things that I would share is Wednesday is our Startup and Resource Expo. That's going to be at International Square. That's always a very exciting event for startups to demo their, innovations. At the same time, you're going to be able to walk around and see all the resources. Anthony, to your point, this is one of the most supportive ecosystems that is around. So there's so much help. There's actually so much funding. There's so much non-dilutive funding. Startups just don't know about it, right? And so all throughout the week, we're going to have office hours. We're actually about to send an email about that. Very top leaders and founders are going to give their time, but these are slots that people need to confirm. It's not just walk-ins, but to get access to these individuals is very difficult, but we want to make it happen, and they want to make it happen. So that's also really exciting. I'll speak to just a few sort of our keynotes. One is Ted Leonsis, which we've been trying to get for several years, and we're really excited. He's going to be our kickoff speaker for day one. Been such a DMV sort of a pillar, right? And just everything they're doing with monumental sports and investing in everything. So we're excited to share that. And Seth Goldman, and there's so many surprises coming. I'm not even going to say it, but OpenAI is involved, Lovable's involved. I mean, we have a tremendous amount of brands and companies that really wanted to take advantage of being in front of this community to share what's happening. So I don't know, Rachel, Darius, what else did I miss?
The one piece, we have a new workforce development track, which is being supported by the DC Department of Labor, as well as within Build Within. And it's going to be an amazing track. We're expecting more federal employees who have laid off or want to take and get involved in startups or to start their own companies. So we added a lot of content to help support more around, I have an idea what's next, to also I'm looking to transition and to start to work within startups. So at that expo on Wednesday at International Square, we're also having a career corner where you can have resume review, interview prep, and we have a section that's going to be around speed dating style with interviews of potential employers as well.
So we've covered a lot of ground in terms of what people can expect. Darius, maybe you could talk a little bit about who should participate and give people a sense of how they can participate to get the most out of DC Startup and Tech Week.
Yeah, this question is certainly up my alley. Anything community related. I think the types of people you can expect to see at DC Startup and Tech Week, you'll see, all range of folks. We intentionally designed the conference for that, to be able to touch everybody where they're at. And so you might see solopreneurs, you might see small business owners, you'll see entrepreneurs who are, really, just in the early phases of their career. You see obviously all scales on the startup timeline. In terms of growth stage, early stage, deep in series A, B, C, and D. And you'll really see a lot of the different folks in the community, whether they're service providers, whether they're folks who work at corporate institutions that are really trying to get more ingrained and more engaged with the folks who will be at the conference. And then one of the things I'm really excited about, Seema actually mentioned it, as we're doing the investor track this year. One of the things I've been poking at Rachel about for the past couple of years, as I was volunteering about, there's just as many investors at the week as there are founders and all the other folks who attend throughout the week as well. But how do we engage them and give them content that makes them want to stay and participate in the week versus just coming to maybe scout founders, or being in an atmosphere where they feel like there's so many founders here and we're being peppered with questions, but how can we get the information and the content that we're looking for as well? And so that's really the ethos of designing or building out that investor sub-track this year, is really how do we touch the folks who are GPs and LPs or angels, or maybe on the corporate side of the VC landscape. How do we deliver content to them that makes them want to stay and engage? And I think that just makes it a more well-rounded event for everybody, and well-rounded atmosphere for everybody as well. I think the second part of your question, like how do you take the most advantage of the week? For me, historically, I've always just identified what are the things that I need help with this week. So founders can identify like, hey, this is what I'm coming to this week for. If I don't leave with anything else, I'm leaving with the contact. I'm leaving with this information. I'm leaving with something. There's something that that everybody needs and everybody's coming for. Yes, everybody's coming for capital. Yes, most people are coming for maybe job opportunities. But there's tons of different things that folks might need. And I think this week is the week where you realize all of those goals. And so if there's anything that I would tell founders or participators in the week, is come with a checklist or come with the goal of the things that you want to get done for the week, and be intentional about doing that. Use that time wisely. There's no other event in the DMV region that brings together this many folks in this region and in this space. And so take advantage of that. Take advantage of the relationships that you're going to build, the resources that are going to be on tap, and then the content that's going to be shared, because it'll truly change your life. And I can say I'm a testimony of that as well. I think, I owe a debt of gratitude to both of these individuals, Rachel and Seema, and the whole DC Startup and Tech Week brand, for the support that they've given me and how I've been able to kind of elevate and grow in the work that I've been doing here as well.
Great. So you can really see, if you're listening, it really touches everybody who has any sort of connection to the startup ecosystem. Talking about the ecosystem, you all sit at the center of it with DC Startup Week. You really meet so many people from all different areas and aspects of our regional startup ecosystem. How have you seen it evolve over the past several years, and what excites you most at the moment about the future of the DC Metro regional startup ecosystem? Maybe Rachel, you could start us off there.
Yes, of course. And Seema, Darius joined in. I know there's so much that excites us about the ecosystem and where it's heading. I've been a part of the ecosystem now for almost 11 years, which is insane how fast time has flown by. But I've seen the ecosystem just drastically evolve and change over the years. I remember like the early days, DC was very much known as it's a government town. You're here as a startup if you're consulting or working with government. But there was a tech community underneath that. You just kind of had to find it. And once you found it, you're like, wow, what an amazing group of founders and startups and investors that are here locally. Over the years, we've seen a drastic change of investors being locally here. I remember the early days of DC Startup and Tech Week, a lot of conversations were, do I have to move to New York or San Francisco in order to get fundraising? And now look at like the ecosystem of having a hustle fund, Revolution that's being here, Zeal Capital, Anderson Horowitz. You see so many now investor groups are moving here to DC, and it's a testament to the power of our ecosystem and the founders and the startups that are locally here. And it's been really inspiring to see that now, and even at DC Startup and Tech Week, we're seeing investors come from not only from this local region, but nationally and internationally. And when we talk to them, we ask them, why are you here? Like, we don't want to miss out on what's happening in DC. We don't want to miss out on the founders that are here. And it's been a really cool to see that evolution happening over the years, something that we've known and believed in since day one. But now we're seeing more of other people realizing that the passion and the talent and the impact that's happening local here. I would say in addition to that in the region, it's huge within like defense tech, within quantum, within now AI and emerging technology. And that's evolved greatly over the years. And we're seeing more DC, Maryland, Virginia coming together as a whole of how do we position this ecosystem so powerful together collectively versus individually. So that's been amazing to see. And that's been intentional from DC Startup and Tech Week side that we're really engaging the DC ecosystem, some of the ecosystem happening in Maryland and Virginia, and bringing everyone together across the week. And we're only able to do that from having over 100 partners, sponsors, ecosystem builders across the week. So Seema, Darius, please add to that because there's so much that excites us.
I think what is exciting for me is seeing all the work that's done with everyone in this ecosystem. So when I look at like DC Tab, that wasn't here a couple years ago, and Kevin Morgan and team have done such a great job like building that in the DC ecosystem. You look at TEDCO in Maryland or the Virginia Tech Council. Chesapeake has its own, tech hub. The Treat Angels when it comes to the Angel Syndicate, District Angels, right? Anne Marie and Brennan are doing upskilling in AI. We have Upsurge in Baltimore. We have Connectpreneur, obviously, with Tien and building a lot of the life sciences ecosystem and more. And so it's like you see the growth in the community of ecosystem builders. And I think, that to me shows progress, and it shows that it goes back, Anthony, I keep saying it, is like, this is one of the supportest ecosystems if you know how to plug in. And I think now a lot of founders have choice. There are a lot of places to plug in depending on what your focus is and what your thesis is, and different sort of communities. We have Black BC. We have so many different amazing ecosystem builders here. And I think, it's exciting because there is still a government focus. There is still defense. It's huge here. We know that, right? And then there's other pieces. Dual use has become such a big conversation, commercial and private, right? And so I love seeing that. And then I love seeing the success stories that are coming out. I think last year we shared with you, we had done this Innovate series, which we were highlighting like the top 100 thought leaders and companies in the region. And part of what we know in the region here is that we kind of don't talk a lot about the successes. And part of our role is like, how do we start to talk more about what's happening in the DMV outside of the defense region, right? And start to position us more of those innovators when it comes to life sciences and biotech and AI and all the other social impact, right? Halcyon is doing such an incredible job, and they've been such strategic partners of ours. So I think the storytelling, the ecosystem building, the progress happening with founders is really exciting to me.
Yeah, certainly. And I would double click on some of what Rachel and Seema both shared. The defense piece of it, you're seeing that uptick. And so, don't necessarily need to go down the rabbit hole there, but that's one of the reasons we did, launch the initiative for Launch T, to really start to support the founders who are building an autonomous tech defense and dual use. They've really, showcased the DMV region as a hub for that type of innovation for the founders that are building here. And how can we start to attract them? The collaboration piece is probably the bigger piece, and maybe not so much, certainly from the, group perspective and like local organization perspective, but I think, even across borders, across boundaries and districts, DC, Maryland, Virginia, I think that's something that, is at the core of the work that I do. Like, how do we be more collaborative? And seeing that come to fruition, you're seeing, Maryland and DC and Virginia figuring out ways, or at least wanting to have conversations about like, how can we collaborate and, work together? I think that's the most effective way and cohesive way to support all of the region. And so you're seeing that happen is awesome. And then a lot of the soft landing programs that are happening to really attract folks from an international perspective, it only continues to fuel the innovation that's happening here. So to the extent that we can continue to foster that through the work that we do, I think is major.
Great. Well, thank you all for sharing so much information about DC Startup Week and your insights on our ecosystem. As we said at the beginning, when Tien had his introduction, in addition to everything you do, which is a massive undertaking with DC Startup Week, you're each as well individual founders of your own companies. And so I'm going to hand it back to Tien now, and we're going to have an opportunity to talk about your roles as entrepreneurs outside of DC Startup Week and what you're all working on. So Tien, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anthony. And yes, I mean, Seema, Rachel, Darius, you guys are doing Herculean type work with not only the event that's coming up, but also with your own work. And would love to have you guys have an opportunity to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing on your quote day job. Seema, why don't you kick things off? I'd love to hear more about disruptive AI and also broadly how you see AI impacting the startup ecosystem and the ecosystem in general here in our region.
Yeah, I'm laughing when you're like, it's your day job, because I call it work-life integration, because it's like a 3 a.m., 12 a.m., whatever job, right? And it's passion that fueled it. So here's my reality. I've grown and scaled companies my entire career. I reposition companies for a living. And the last several years, heavily in emerging tech, Web3, disruptive insurance products, AI, smart cities, all the things. But 3 years ago, it shifted everything for me. I was asked to advise a company called Magic ML. It was one of the first agentic work development environments, meaning, I don't know if everyone's familiar now with this concept of AI agents, but at that time, the founders of this company were consulting Google. It was that early. We were highlighted at Google I/O. It was that early. But the technology itself was so powerful because it was the first time that I saw something that took months be done in minutes, because that's what the power of this intelligence is possible today, the accessibility, all of the things. And at that moment, I realized that this technology is bigger than the advent of the internet, right? And so I couldn't unsee that. I have a very personal story between my parents' businesses doing really well and then went close to bankruptcy during the internet rise because they weren't paying attention as operators with technology crossing the chasm. So disruptive AI is really an offshoot of what I know, what I've learned. There's a couple of pieces to it. We go in and we make businesses intelligent. So automating a lot of the things that are extremely repetitive, extremely laborious, but in a very advanced way, using AI technology to actually, there's a key piece to this that I don't want to not talk about, which is fluency. So we know that unlocking and getting CEOs and founders to understand what this technology can do, how you could actually use it to unlock automation, to unlock product enhancements, use data for precision and personalization. Because things that have never been able to be done before are able to be done today. And so disruptive as an education arm, we go in and we actually build and agentic solutions for companies. And we have a venture arm really working with some vertically integrated AI companies to really help them scale. So from an ecosystem, Tien, from a startup perspective, the reality is a lot of companies are slapping AI on it still. They don't have a real understanding of what this technology is and what's possible. And I think one of the things that we're doing DC Startup and Tech Week, I'm actually starting also an AI conference called AI Business Con that's going to come up in April. It's really to help people understand from a business side, not so much how the sausage is made, but how this is going to impact, your business. And here's the business outcomes that you can get with AI and how to do it. And I think until we start to unlock that level of education, people are going to, again, be at sort of the outskirts of just using ChatGPT or doing certain things where this is where innovation can really happen. This is where the blockbusters and, the yellow pages and the folks got disrupted during the internet times, and the Amazons and the, Googles and the others started coming. We're going to see a lot of these, these newer companies start to emerge, newer categories start to emerge. And for the startups, that's why the Future series is so important. So you guys start to understand the trends, the opportunities with AI, even AI and blockchain together, and then the future of quantum. It's this is the biggest moment in time that any of us have ever seen. And it works, and it's in everything. It's in healthcare. It's in life sciences. It's in, manufacturing. It's in chips. It's in everything, right? And so the more you educate yourself, and that's, disruptive again has different pieces to it. But as a startup founder, do not start a company without thinking about how AI is going to be leveraged in it. But the goal is, it's not about the technology, it's about the problem you're solving. That's at the end of the day.
Got it. Thank you for that. And, kudos to you guys. I know you just kicked things off a couple years ago, but it seems like you guys are rocking. Rachel, how about you? Can you tell us a little bit more about UPace? And also a follow-up question would be as a founder, from your perspective, how does our ecosystem here support founders? Obviously, not just through DCSTW, but in other ways.
Yeah. So a little bit about UPace. We now are on 11 years of business. We started off with the support of American University's Valoric Center of Entrepreneurship. I was working on this idea in the classroom, and they helped give the advice, the encouragement, the mentorship to be able to get started. So we are a SaaS platform for community rec centers. So think a YMCA, Jewish Community Center, Government Parks and Rec, supporting how they engage and retain their membership. So we support community rec centers across the United States and Canada, over 1 million members. We support on our platform. So everything from around how do you make reservations for group acts, personal training, swim lanes, childcare, to supporting how these centers operate, of looking and leveraging data smartly for decision making, but also helping with anything from substitution management, cancellations, changes that are happening with maintenance, or whether all is able to be streamlined directly on our platform. For the second area of the question, how founders are able to really grow and scale here, I think, Anthony, we mentioned this at the beginning, really around just our community is extremely special around people being willing to help support one another no matter what. I remember my early days, that was one of the questions. I would go to a networking event and meet someone for the first time. They would ask, how can I help? And I think that's something that's really hard, is like your early days of admitting that you need help. But let's admit it, everyone always needs help with something, and being really intentional about what are those specific asks that you need help with. But there's so many initiatives, especially to support like female founders in the region. Like right now you have the Agora initiative, which is so much work to help female founders who are growing and scaling and looking and building investment through their pitch competition and breakfasts and other activations throughout. We do some work around DC Startup Women to help support women, and we have a female founder and funder track. You have Citrine Angels, who's doing an amazing work. Last year at our event, they announced over $1 million that they have funded for female founders. So there's really game-changing initiatives, and really I believe like DC in this region is a great place for a female founder who's looking to start and scale.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And Darius, would love to hear more about Deals Venture Group, and as well as your work with the DC Tech and Venture Coalition. And similar to my question for Rachel, how do you see the DC startup community growing and evolving in terms of connecting founders and investors? I guess more on the investor side.
Yeah. So for me, Deals Venture Group was born out of a passion of, initially just wanting to support folks who had an appetite for investing. And so it initially, started out as an angel syndicate. And so we worked to build that out, really leveraging and building it out on the backs of like the network that I had started to build based on the ecosystem building I was doing, a lot of the relationships I was doing prior to starting Deals Venture Group. I was an entrepreneur at brand, several different companies at one point, had purchased franchises with friends. Nothing that was wildly successful. I had worked in the finance industry as well, and in the retail banking industry for a little bit. Just wasn't fulfilled. And so, making that transition, I knew I'd always wanted to be an investor. And a lot of the work that I did cross paths with so many people who were also building and also being entrepreneurs. And so, in coupling that with like the different events and different engagements that I was in, I was like, well, why not pull these folks together and figure out like how we can, one, pursue different opportunities together, whether that's from a venture perspective and investment perspective. I didn't necessarily have venture language to it at the time. But that's the first iteration of Deals Venture Group, and I think since then it's evolved quite a bit. And so through my time at Techstars and now transitioning to supporting District Angels underneath of the DC Tab umbrella, it's evolved into more of like a platform and an ecosystem to continue to cultivate relationships for folks building in the venture space, wanting to connect and make curated and targeted connections with folks who might be investors or startups, or I really just want to see the ecosystem thrive. And so Deals Venture Group, it's evolved into a brand of my own, but also a community of folks. And, because of the work that I've done at DC Startup and Tech Week and at Techstars and other places, that network has only grown and expanded a lot further. And so, that's the exciting part about it, and excited for the next iteration of it as well. And I think the good thing to note about like the work that I do in my day-to-day is it really encompasses all the work that I would be doing, with Deals Venture Group anyway, bringing the community together, supporting the ecosystem, working directly with investors, working directly with startups, helping make those connections to for startups to be able to raise the capital that they need, but also for investors to be able to build the pipelines that, they want to build with, really, really outstanding. And so I think lending to one, obviously, reiterating how we, started to build out what that investor track content looks like and how to re-engage those folks. For the second year in running, we didn't do it last year. We did the year prior in 2023, but we partnered with Black VC to do an investor and founders and funder happy hour, and to really curate a curated group to come together to be able to network and build with other GPs, LPs who are building in the space. And so to have those touch points and to be able to help convene in those types of settings. And so really being a champion for those opportunities and really being intentional about how we're meeting investors where they're at, and then how we're actually funneling, founders in those settings strategically so that they can, extract the value that they're so desperately looking for. The number one question or conversation we're having at startup events is like, where can I get funding? Yeah, who's giving out money right about now? And
Tien knows a lot about that.
Pathways for yeah. So to be able to provide pathways for that, it's been a big deal.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, it is a tough market, but the work you're doing is going to yield results. And, at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. You just got to get in front of as many investors as you can and swing the bat. And hopefully the overall market will lift a little bit and we'll all be in better shape, but we'll see. But I guess our time is up, and I'd love to thank the three of you guys for joining us and also wish you the absolute best for another amazing DC Startup and Tech Week. And for closing remarks, let me turn it back over to Anthony.
Great. Thank you, Tien and Rachel, Seema, and Darius. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Monthly Blend to talk about DC Startup and Tech Week and your own other businesses that you founded and run. To our audience who's listening, just to emphasize again, this really is the most important week of the year in our startup ecosystem as far as a whole week goes, and everything that DC Startup and Tech Week can offer you, regardless of the role that you play in our ecosystem. There is something there for everybody, and I really look forward to seeing many of you at DC Startup Week. And again, for the three of you, thank you so much for this massive effort and undertaking, giving all of us this opportunity to attend a week like this in our region. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, Anthony and Tien. We appreciate all that you guys do to support the startup ecosystem and region as well, and all your support for DC Startup and Tech Week the last 10 years.
Well, thanks so much and good luck.
Thank you all.
Yeah.